2.
Hey there, gamers! Welcome back to the channel, where we dive deep into the games you love, or maybe not so much. Today, we're taking a closer look at Devil May Cry 2. Is it a misunderstood gem or a step back for the franchise? Let's break it down. Released in 2003, Devil May Cry 2 had some big shoes to fill after the success of the first game. Fans of Dante's stylish action and over-the-top personality were eager to see how the sequel would crank things up. But unfortunately, the reality wasn't quite what they expected. Let's start with the story. It's there. You're fighting demons, saving the world, and dealing with a forgettable villain who wants to become a god. Unlike the first game, which had a gothic horror vibe and some actual character depth, DMC2 opts for a vague, disjointed narrative that doesn't give you much to care about. Even Dante, our cocky, wisecracking demon hunter, feels like he's phoning it in. But hey, they added a second playable character. Lucia, the agile demon hunter, joins the fight. While it's nice to have variety, her story is just as underwhelming as Dante's. And let's be honest, her gameplay doesn't bring enough to the table to justify a second playthrough. Alright, let's talk gameplay, the heart of any Devil May Cry game. The combat in DMC2 is still fast-paced and flashy, but something feels off. The challenge has been toned way down, enemy AI is laughably bad, and the game seems to prioritize style over substance. And by style, I mean endlessly flipping while shooting pistols, because that's what you'll be doing. A lot. Boss battles are supposed to be a highlight, right? In DMC2, they're more like a chore. Most bosses can be beaten by standing at a distance and spamming attacks. Where's the strategy? Where's the excitement? Let's go over the environments. Huge and empty. The puzzles? Barely there. And the soundtrack? Forgettable. Which is a crime for a Devil May Cry game. Now, to be fair, not everything about Devil May Cry 2 is terrible. The graphics were impressive for the time, and the ability to switch weapons mid-combo added some flexibility. But these small wins aren't enough to save the game from mediocrity. Devil May Cry 2 isn't just a disappointing sequel. It's a cautionary tale about rushing development and losing sight of what made the original great. Alright, let's compare how Devil May Cry 2 is different from the original Devil May Cry. Let's start with Devil May Cry 1. Released in 2001, this game practically invented the stylish action genre. Directed by Hideki Kamiya, it introduced us to Dante the half-demon, all-attitude protagonist with a flair for the dramatic. The game had tight, challenging combat, gothic environments, and an epic storyline that made you feel like you were part of something legendary. The combat in DMC1 was revolutionary for its time. Every move felt deliberate, and every enemy encounter was a test of skill. Boss fights like Phantom and Mundus pushed players to their limits. And let's not forget the atmosphere, dark, eerie, and dripping with style. Now, fast forward to Devil May Cry 2, released in 2003. The sequel took a different direction, a much different direction. This time, Dante is quieter, cooler, and, less of the cheeky demon hunter we fell in love with. The gameplay is bigger, but not necessarily better. The combat in DMC2 expanded on Dante's arsenal, but lost the intensity. Ranged attacks became overpowered, and melee combat felt shallow compared to its predecessor. Where DMC1 demanded precision, DMC2 often let you coast through enemies with minimal effort. And let's talk about environments. DMC1 gave us a haunting castle that felt alive with secrets. Meanwhile, DMC2 introduced sprawling, empty cityscapes that lacked the same personality or intrigue. Bigger doesn't always mean better, and this is a perfect example. DMC2 did bring in a second playable character, Lucia, which could have been a nice addition. Unfortunately, her story and gameplay don't add enough depth to justify her inclusion. Compared to Dante, she feels like an afterthought. Now let's talk story. DMC1 delivered a focused, high-stakes narrative with memorable characters and a clear sense of progression. Mundus, the big bad, was a menacing presence throughout. In contrast, DMC2 opts for a vague, uninspired plot. Its villain, Arius, is forgettable, and even Dante's motivations feel unclear. Dante's personality shift is one of the most glaring differences. In DMC1, he's brash, sarcastic, and endlessly entertaining. In DMC2, he's silent. Cool, but silent. It's like they drained all the charisma out of him. So, why did Devil May Cry 2 turn out so differently? Well, the game's troubled development likely played a huge role. Unlike the first game, which had a clear vision under Kamiya's direction, DMC2 switched directors partway through production and felt rushed. In the end, Devil May Cry 1 set the bar high, establishing a beloved franchise with style and substance. Devil May Cry 2 stumbled, but it's an interesting chapter in the series' history. Thankfully, Devil May Cry 3 redeemed the franchise and reminded everyone why we fell in love with Dante in the first place. So, should you play Devil May Cry 2? If you're a completionist or a die-hard fan of the series, maybe. Otherwise, you're not missing much by skipping this one. That's it for today's review. What do you think of Devil May Cry 2? Was it a misunderstood classic, or does it deserve its reputation? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more gaming content. Until next time, keep slaying those demons and keep gaming.